Retreat Series, Dhamma Talk number 37. Okay. Buddha taught us how to practice this Vipassana meditation in many different ways, from various approaches to suit various personality, intelligence level. The most detailed, with precision, is expounded in the long discourses of Satipatthana Sutra. So we are going to talk about same thing about the practice, but today we're going to touch or talk about something Buddha taught. It's in a sutta called Gomabada Sutta. The meaning is the parable of a tortoise. The Buddha used tortoise as a example, used as a centerpiece, and taught the people who are there based on the gathering, based on the intelligence, based on their ability to grasp. Buddha approached differently and taught this discourse or sutta in a storytelling manner. You will see these kind of storytelling in the sutta as well as in the kindred sayings. The storytelling style is, first of all, it's very easy to listen and also very easy to understand, and also very easy to remember. You don't have to be a deep thinker or philosopher or intellectual to understand it. So when a group of people who were in front of him with a certain personality, he used storytelling and taught them how to practice this Vipassana. So the story goes like this. One evening, a tortoise swimming in the ocean came up onto the surface and crawled up the beach in search of food. So coming up slowly, one step at a time. And at the same time, around that ocean bank in the bushes, there was a fox, the same thing, going around looking for food. A fox was looking here, looking there, running here, running there for food. And suddenly, the fox saw the tortoise coming up, slowly coming up. He waited quietly and watched. And as the tortoise came up the shore quite a bit, he ran down and then tried to grab the tortoise. It's a food, this marked as a food. And as soon as the tortoise saw the fox steering straight to it, suddenly the tortoise shrunk all his forelegs and the head into the shell, just for protection. That's how the tortoise protect themselves. And the fox came in and tried, because there's a big thick shell, and the only thing is the 5 holes, the head and the forelegs. So he poked this hole, he pokes every hole, but just can't get out of it. He tried many ways, stiff many ways, stretch many ways, but can't do anything. Finally, the fox gave up and then walked on and looked for some other food. And the tortoise was safe from the danger of the fox. So that was what happened at the ocean shore, on the beach, near the bushes. So in here, if you look at it, the tortoise is you, the yogi. Okay? The yogis are the tortoise, and the fox is the mental defilements. So, mental defilements are always looking for their mark and then going straight on and attack the mark. So the fox poke every holes. There are 5 holes, which means these are the mental defilements poked through their 5 sense, your 5 sense door, your eye door, ear door, nose door, tongue door, and body door. These 5 doors, they are always attacking and poking, always coming in touch and contact, mental contact. And at that time, if a yogi is very clever and smart, he will shrink all his, or close all his 5 doors. What that means is restrain, refrain, restrain, and even possible it closed down all the holes. With what? With the mindfulness. You close down with mindfulness. If you shut down cleverly to all the 5 sense door with cleverness, with mindfulness cleverly, then the mental defilements cannot attack. Of course, if you are not mindful, if you don't know how to shut down or close down your sense door, that's another story. So let's see one of the door, the eye door. In the eye door, what is the eye door is always in touch with the forms. Forms which represent through size, shape, color, texture. These kind of things are always coming and striking the eyes all the time. Okay? And when they come and strike, they are all sort of different forms. Some are beautiful, wonderful, marvelous. Some are ugly, repulsive, okay? Unpleasant, all different natures. Some are simply neither pleasant or unpleasant. These come in. And if you don't have mindfulness, when the beautiful forms come and strike, come in contact with your eye, there's suddenly the craving arises. Craving, still okay, but still as soon as there's a craving, you have a pleasant feeling. And every object, okay, they have this kind of a pleasant feeling, but the people are different. Some objects have more effect on the other than another person. Different objects have different effect. And each one of us have certain objects that we are vulnerable to. So whenever these kind of objects that we are vulnerable to, that little craving become clinging and grasping. We start to cling and crave, and even become attached eventually. And when you come to that clinging, grasping, attachment stage, the yogi or the person start to do something to get it, to acquire it, to possess it. Okay, put all sort of efforts. Some in a legal mean, proper mean, moral mean. Some in a illegal means, okay, improper, immoral means, unwholesome means. They start to do things. At that moment, you are not aware of anything anymore, because grasping and clinging take over the desire department, because there is no mindfulness. And once you do these illegal, not lawful, immoral things, okay, they are to affect automatically from the legal sense, right away, right here, right now, the law can come after you. But even if the law doesn't or couldn't touch you, what happened is you have created or accumulated negative karma or bad karma. These karma, they will produce result. Okay. Like in a law way, it can produce immediately or within a few weeks or months, and sometime after years after. Even if it doesn't produce this life, it could produce a next life. The effects arises again because of the causes, and if not, down the line throughout different various life, whenever the conditions are ripened or the conditions are met, that negative result will arise. That's what happened. And the whole thing is because we cannot shut that eye door with mindfulness. If we can shut that door with mindfulness, what happens is still these pleasant objects and unpleasant objects still come in contact to the eye door. But as there is a mindfulness, when the beautiful objects come in, you simply stop at the point of seeing. If it is beautiful, you know it is beautiful. If it is pleasant, you see it is pleasant. But simply you have an understanding. There's a beautiful object. It comes in a straight line with the eye sensitivity. And there's a light and there's attention, and the phenomenon of seeing arises. In other words, seeing consciousness arises. And that's it. That's the process. That's the phenomenon. And if you are mindful, that's exactly what it happens, and no craving or no grasping, clinging or attachment can arise. So you do not try with all means, by all means, straightforward or crooked, to acquire, to get it. And the same thing, if it is a repulsive object, you observed, you know, and it is simply seeing process. And if you can be mindful, and if you are aware this is a seeing process, seeing phenomenon, what happens is no aversion arises, no anger arises. If there's no aversion, no anger, you will not be reacting in any negative way or negative form. Suddenly, what is happening is when you can close down your eye sensitivity or eye door with mindfulness, neither wholesome, pleasant, unwholesome, unpleasant nature can arise. You simply observe as it is, know the fact as it is, and if it needs to do something, to help something, to resolve something, you know exactly what needs to be done, and you simply do it just for the purpose of executing what is necessary. And what is necessary is always fall back into not hurting, not harming, non-violence. Okay, that's the first principle. Within that framework you start. And second framework is how to help, how to serve, how to make other people's life, even if it is a little better. Don't have to be humongous, climbing the mountain and waving the flag. Simply, nonchalantly do it so that it serves for that person's life. It becomes a little better. And that is the result of a ability to shut down or close your eye door with mindfulness. That's what the tortoise does. He shrinks his head in, and then the fox can poke and poke and poke, nothing could happen, and it is safe from the enemy of the fox. And in here, through the eye door, we are saved from the enemy of mental defilements, lobha, dosa, and moha. Okay? Greed, anger, and delusion, or likes, dislikes, and uncertainty, we are safe. So that is the eye door. The same thing with the ear door. The sound would arise, and some of the sounds are cursing, abusing, very abrasive, rude words. If you are mindful, regardless how much these words, negative words, are bombarding at you from the outside world, you do not get angry, you don't react, you don't respond. Or simply, it is their own ignorance. That's what is happening at this time. In fact, sometimes you even develop sympathy and compassion for those people because they know, you know, that they are creating negativity, and that negativity will compound it, and they will get into the different unwholesome path. That is the power of mindfulness. If you can watch your ear door. And the same thing, there might be sweet sound, beautiful sound, lovely sounds come in, musics come in, praise come in, sometimes praising. Okay? They might have a different agenda, but at the same time, when they praise, when the praise comes in, people's mental state changes. Sometimes, some people even use praise to manipulate. These kind of things are always coming at the ear door. And if you're mindful, you are what? Always neutral, being aware. And even though this praise is a real praise or a manipulative praise, or even if it's a sweet, beautiful sound, something that you like, even that you don't get into the point of grasping and clinging and attachment. By being so, what happens is you do not have any stress to acquire it, to get it, to possess it, to maintain it, to defend it. Don't need to do anything, but at the same time, you simply, so to speak, know and enjoy as it is at that moment. When the moment's gone, that pleasantness is also gone. That's through the ear door. So from that, we don't need to go too detailed. The same thing with the nose door. Pleasant smell come in, unpleasant smell come in. The principle is the same. And then the tongue door. In the tongue door, the same thing. Taste. Good taste, bad taste come in, and if you have mindfulness, you can really know exactly this is a very tasty food. You know it is tasty. It doesn't reduce anything from being tasty. You know tasty at that moment, you thoroughly know it, enjoyed it, it's gone, that mental state is also gone. And bitterness, hot, unpleasant taste come in, the same thing. You simply know it, and that moment pass, it's also past. The taste on your tongue, it only lasts a split of a second, and then it is gone. But when you cling onto it, you want that food. You try for that food, you go for the food, you put lots of effort for that food. That is the compounded work that comes in, which comes along with stress. And hopefully, If it is there, you could maintain within the moral and legal mean without going to the other side of the moral texture. That is a taste. And so is the same with the touch, the body. Every time, everything is always in touch. Soft, pleasant, lovely touch. Unpleasant touch is the same principle applies. So those are the 5 doors: eye doors, ear door, nose door, tongue door, and the body door. And the objects, all these forms, sound, smell, taste, and touch are always in contact with this body, and you are experiencing all the time. If you are mindful at that 5 doors, you would not go into any state of stress or any state of unwholesomeness, akusala. Now we talk about, 5 doors. Those are the 5 physical doors. Okay, the tortoise too, there's 5 holes, 5 toes. But the tortoise, for the tortoise to shrink all these and put inside, there is the awareness and intention is there. Attention, intention, awareness there. The same thing. Okay, we just talk about this door, that door, eye door. So in other words, there's the eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, and so on. But whenever it touches, first and foremost is it strike that eye door. Okay, but actually that striking is only the physical process, and then there's the attention, the awareness. Okay, awareness, attention as an awareness. That awareness produces that so-called eye consciousness. When you say seeing, 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 you are actually observing the seeing consciousness. When you note hearing, 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 you are actually experiencing the hearing consciousness. So in a strict sense, you are observing the consciousness. You are observing the mind. So whenever these events happen in the 5 physical sense door, these messages are all passed towards the mind door, because only through the mind door you become aware. Mind door. So there's a 6th door, the mind door. Whenever there's a mind door, so it is not only 5 doors that you need to watch, you need to watch 6 doors. The 6th door is mind door, because all information goes through the mind door. But at that time, the awareness, the consciousness is operated by the respective type of consciousness. Seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, smelling consciousness, and so on. These are different type of consciousness. And when it touches the mind door, it's a total different matter now. The mind door is not only processing the 5 sense door information, that spectrum of the mind door, that domain of the mind door is infinite. It is expands and expands and expands. It is a great, great, huge, large door. And here one has to be very careful. Not only the physical sense information it is processing, it also is processing the thought information. Thought information means all the experience ones have. These experience become a whole bundle of information source, and they are reprocessed. And whenever these thoughts or these memory are reprocessed, this is the mind object. The mind object and the mind door, through the mind door, it is processing. So the mind must be aware of it. And it is very complex, very intricate, and its domain is infinite. Just to give a little example. This example is directly come from the scripture. So what is this scripture is, there was once a Tirra. Tirra means very senior monk, okay? Senior monk. Okay. That senior monk name is called Sangha Rakkhita. And he is a Arahat. He was a Arahat. And this story, this event actually happened at the time of the Buddha. So it is in the scripture recorded, Sangha Rakkhita. And even though Arahat, people, they don't just go around and boast, I am Arahat, and everybody know that he's Arahat. Some, you just look at it, and some people, oh, there's a monk, and that's it. But in reality, in his quality is the Arhata quality. So he lives in a village. And then, just like any other monk, in the morning he goes for alms round, and what the monk's supposed to do, he does. When the villagers come, he teach, and so on and so forth. If once look at it, it's just a monk. Nobody know what the difference is between a ordinary Puthajjana monk and a Arya or Rahata monk. People don't know. So, to carry on with this story, there was a monk there, and this monk also has a nephew, and nephew is also a monk. And the nephew lives in the nearby village, another village. So the young kid. So this nephew he lives at that nearby village. And in those Buddhist time, you cannot go to a store and buy a robe. No, they don't. What they do was, sometimes they have to go to the cemetery, and then are pieces of cloth, okay, that people rub around the corpse and bury it or burn. And these little pieces of cloth, they have to pick them up, okay, wash them, clean them, and when they have enough, they dyed it from the bark of a tree. That's why most of the robes are different shades of brown or red. It comes from the type of the birds that they are using, or even somewhat brownish yellow, the whole array. And once they got those many pieces, what they do was, they stitch them together. They stitch them together to a certain size, and then once they got the size, that's become a robe. They dyed, and that is the robe that the monks wear. And sometime, some people might come and donate you a little piece of cloth. Not the whole one, little piece of cloth here, a clear cloth there, and that's how they go. So what this young monk is doing is he just collect all the clothes that he could find from the cemetery or whatever. He save, he stitched some for himself, and then the good one, he really keeps it well, and a whole pile of them. And once he got enough, what he did was, he went to the other village where his uncle monk was living, okay, Sangha Rakkhita was living. He went over there. When he went there, it was around the sort of a late morning. As it is late morning, what it is, his uncle monk was not there. He went to the village for the alms round. Alms round means they carry a bowl and then stood in front of each house, okay, along the path without any discrimination, stand there for about half a minute or minute. If people come out and put food, they collect and move on. If they don't come out and collect, that's also fine. After about a minute, they move to the next house. They went around till the bowl is full. That's what it means by alms round. If it is just yourself, as soon as you got one person serving, they stop and go back. But if there are other sick monks or other guest monk, things like that, then they will go around for 2 people serving, 3 people serving. That's why the bowls are fairly big, so that they can provide to the sick monks or feed the sick monk. So this is the culture. This is how it is, how the monks are supposed to live. So he was in an alms round. When he was in an alms round, the young monk was there, couldn't see. So we clean up the monastery and prepare the table, so to speak, tables and chairs and everything ready, make water for his uncle to come back. So when his uncle come back, he received the bowls and take her out and then give respect. And then suddenly what he did was he just coming with, great volition. His heart is just thumping. He's so feeling good and feeling proud. He collect all these pieces of clothes for his uncle monk. And because he really wants to donate, when you want to give something, the kind of sensation and feeling you are having, that is the feeling is very, very good feeling, and it is from the volition of your act it arises. So he offered to the uncle, and the uncle said, well, I have lots and lots of monks, but you better keep it so that you can, you can use it in future when you need it, or you can give it to some other monks who needs it. And he didn't say, but the young monk was quite upset or sorry. You feel really bad. I'm really want to give, and he's turning down my gift. But to make the long story short, just keep quiet and offer the food to the monk. And the senior monk was eating, and he was at the side fanning. Fanning is, you need to know what fanning is. In here is more like a luxury situation. Over there, these kind of things, tropical countries, hot, things like that. When you're eating, there's a lot of flies and things like that go around. And they just go and eat or sit on the food and eat. So you have to fan off those insects as well. And also, it is very hot. It keeps the person a little cool. So it was more or less of a custom based on the climate condition and all the insects and things like that. So it was fanning. So don't think it's a sign of great respect, fanning. It is out of necessity it arises. I keep these little things so that you know how this culture involves. So I expanded the story. So he was fanning, and then at that moment he was still thinking about his clothes. These pieces of clothes about my uncle didn't accept it. He was a bit upset. He was fanning, and then he went into this. What he was thinking as well, he didn't accept it, fine. I'm going to take all these back home. And then I have so much over there. The monks are not supposed to trade. So as the monks are not supposed to trade, what happened is, if you're a monk, you can't trade, but he wants to sell these things. So he disrobed and sold all the clothes, and he got quite a bit of money from all these clothes because it's a rare thing. He quite a bit of money, and with those money, then what he did was he bought some goats and then breed some goats. And from the goats he take goat milk and he sell around goat milk, and then he got saved lots of money from those. And then he saved the money, and once he got enough money, he got married to a woman, got a wife, and then later he got a child. And then once he got the child, he thinks about his uncle again. Now I haven't seen him since I disrobed, and then I got a family. I will go see my uncle again. So what he did was he put his wife and child and all the food and stuff like that on his carriage, and then drove from his village to his uncle's village. And he was driving, fairly fast, and the roads were bumpy. The roads are quite bumpy. So as the roads are bumpy, at one point the road really bounced a lot, and the wife, the kids in his wife's hand just got lost and fell off the carriage, and the baby died. When the baby died, he was so angry, he just came out, a useless wife, and then beat the wife with a stick that he was driving. So he beat his wife, and what it really is happening is at that time, what he did is he was beating his uncle with the fan that he is fanning the food. That's what it is. In fact, this is all the story that he thinks while he was fanning his uncle, based on the cloth that he donated is not accepted. He's gone wild and beat his uncle with the fan. And the monk is, number one, is an arahat. Not only he's an arahat, he has an abhinya. Abhinya. What it means is these arahats, there are two types of arahats. One type is ordinary arahat. They just simply practice, let's say, this kind of pure Vipassana meditation without concentration, great deep concentration. And they understand the true nature of mind and matter, and they have reached that arahata stage. Another monks they do the same thing, but they go through the jhanic concentration level. They practice concentration to some to the 4th level, some to the 5th level, 8th level, 9th level. And when you go to that level, they call abhinya. Abhinya means supernormal power. And one of the supernormal power is you can look into the mind of others. But they don't all the time looking at, they have to incline their mind. Okay, I'm going to look into the mind of my nephew, and then they can see what it is. That's called abhinya. So there are two types of monks. One is the two types of arahat. One is the ordinary without any supernormal power. Another one is arahat, but with supernormal power. But this Sangharakkhita is the second type, with the arahat with the supernormal power. He looked into the mind of his nephew. Why is he beating me? And he knows that he's actually beating his wife. And the monk said, hey, nephew, you are not beating your wife, you are beating me. And then suddenly the young monk come to sense and was really embarrassed and ashamed. So he ran away from the monastery. And then the senior monk asked the villagers, okay, could we go chase him and bring him back? He brought the young monk back. And to make the long story short, this Sangharakkhita, the arahat, took his nephew to the Buddha and talked about the situation. And the Buddha looked into that young monk, and he see there's a parami for him to attain the ariyaship. So the Buddha gave him a Dhamma talk and taught him, and eventually the young monk became an arahat, and he released from the suffering. So in here is the point is how large the domain of the mind. Okay, if you let loose, if you are not mindful, it goes on and on and on endlessly. That is a very huge, infinite domain that the mind holds. It's very complex and very intricate. So you must observe the mind. You must observe the mind door. And also, by observing the mind door, you are also observing the 5 physical sense door. So, all in one, one in all. By being mindful in the 6th sense door, you can escape from the rounds of rebirth, okay? Birth and death, along which it comes all sort of mass of suffering. That is how one can escape from this. And how to practice this Vipassana meditation, to watch the 5 sense door and to watch the mind door. Basically that's it. And you put great effort to watch. And Buddha taught it with a very simple story of a fox and a tortoise. And the sutta is called parables of a tortoise. So in here you will see, okay, the fox is the mental defilement. The tortoise is you, the yogi. The 5 holes the tortoise has is your 5 sense door. The attention, the intention that you put, and being mindful, okay, that is through the mind door. But in the mind door, you must always put a guard. That guard is mindfulness. Without that guard, without that mindfulness, everything goes haywire. If you can apply that, you can always watch and know whenever the mental defilement is attacking, and you can keep it safe and away from the mind door. And by observing these 5 sense door and also this mind door, what you are doing is you are observing nama and rupa in one word. We can say this door, that door, this door, that door. But in every door, what you are observing is nama, about the mind and about consciousness. Rupa, about the physicality, all this eye, ear, nose, and so on, sound, form, taste, and so on. They are all physicality, rupa. What you are doing was, you are observing the nama and rupa all the time. Just by watching these doors, you are observing nama and rupa. Or in other words, you are observing the 5 aggregates. And if you are observing these nama and rupa 5 aggregates, eventually you come to understand the true nature of this nama and rupa, mind and matter. And by understanding these mind and matter, you gain wisdom inside. Through that wisdom, you cut through all these mental defilements and attained arahatship, or attain supreme peace. May all of you be able to observe the 5 sense door and the mind door, okay, diligently with mindfulness, and may you be able to release yourself from all form of suffering as soon as possible. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Buddham bhujami. Dhammam bhujami. Sangham bhujami.